So our final chapter has to do with compound nouns. And the first part of this chapter is called How to Recognize Compound Nouns. Okay, now before we work on the definition of compound nouns per se, now here is what linguists say about compound words in general. A compound word is made up of two or more words, each of which can be used independently. A compound word is regarded as a single lexical unit by language users. Now, what about compound nouns? Should we say a compound noun is made up of two or more nouns or not? Well, actually, they don't have to be nouns. A compound noun can be made up of two or more words. They don't have to be nouns. Just to give you an example, a drawback, un inconvénient, is a noun, but it's made up of a verb, to draw, and a particle, back. So it's a noun, and yet it's not made up of nouns. Okay, now, so what is important is that this new lexical unit must have the same characteristics as basic nouns. Now, let's look at the word independently in more detail. What do we mean by independently? Well, let's look at these two examples. Would you say that happiness and kitchenette are compounds? Well, they're made up of happy plus ness and kitchen plus et. And happy and ness, well, happy and kitchen can be used independently, but ness and et cannot. They're morphemes, right, like happy and kitchen, but contrary to happy and kitchen, et, and ness are called bound morphemes, which means that they cannot be used on their own. They do have a meaning. Ness refers to state, and et refers to small size, but they cannot be used on their own. They're merely suffixes. So this has to do with the distinction between derivation on the one hand and composition on the other hand. You remember the term derivation? We saw it earlier this semester when we talked about derivational suffixes. Well, ness and et are derivational suffixes. They cannot be used independently, whereas composition is the term used for compound nouns. Okay? Both processes are very productive, but they have different characteristics. Now, the other element in the definition is lexical unit. What do we mean by that? Well, compound nouns constitute a single lexical unit, whereas non-compound words are made up of two lexical units. Let's see the examples here. The word black hole is particularly interesting because it can be a compound, and in other cases it's not a compound. Let's look at the examples. The problem with galactic black holes is that you can't really see them. In this case, a black hole is a different unit. It's a new lexical unit. It's not just the sum of black plus hole. Okay? It's an astronomical object which appears when stars die. On the other hand, the tub fell on the road, leaving a huge black hole. What we have here is not a compound noun. A black hole is just the addition of the meaning of black plus the meaning of hole. Okay, two lexical units. Now, as this case is ambiguous, you may wonder how people can make the difference between the two meanings when the context is not clear. Well, it's possible to tell them apart because they're not pronounced exactly the same way. For instance, when it's made up of two lexical units, it will be pronounced as follows: a black hole. But when it's just one lexical unit, it will be pronounced as a black hole. I repeat, two lexical units, a black hole. One lexical unit, a black hole. So when it's two lexical units, as you can see, you have two primary stresses. Okay, this corresponds to the general stress rule, which you already know. Lexical words are stressed: nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. But when it's a compound noun, as you can see, you have a primary stress on the first word and a secondary stress on the second word. This is the general rule for compound nouns, and indeed it shows you that it forms one lexical unit rather than two. Right, now another consequence of the fact that compounds function as lexical units has to do with the structure of the noun phrase. Let's look at these examples where we have a determiner, an article, a, followed by an adjective, and then black, and then whole. Well, these two noun phrases, although they appear similar on the surface, do not work the same way. Because in the first case, black hole forms a unit, whereas it doesn't in the second case. Which means that in the first case, the adjective galactic has scope, which means porte sur, has scope over black hole, whereas in the second case, the adjective huge and the adjective black both have scope over whole. Okay. Now, we talked about the meaning a little bit. Let's do so in a bit more detail. In the case of compounds, meaning has to be retrieved. It's not fully transparent. There's some kind of recomposition taking place. In French, we talk about renégociation du sens. It means that the meaning of the compound is not simply the addition of the meaning of the two words it is made up of. This is quite similar to what happens with phrasal verbs, which you studied last year. Remember the difference between to throw up, vomir, and to throw up, envoyer en l'air. Okay, when throw up means vomir, its meaning is not just the sum of the meaning of throw plus the meaning of up. Okay, let's look at an example. Here are vegetables, and this is a garden. Now, what about a vegetable garden? A vegetable garden is not just the addition of vegetable plus garden. It means un potager in French, so it means the place where vegetables are grown. It's no longer really a garden in the usual sense. It's different from the phrase big garden, for instance, in which garden really means garden. Okay, so even if the meaning potager seems quite obvious, it is not fully transparent. Someone who doesn't know the term might think that a vegetable garden is this, for instance, a garden which is made up of vegetables. Okay, let's look at another example. What about a fireman? What is a fireman? It could be this, right? Theoretically. But it's not. It's not fully transparent. A fireman is this, so a firefighter, somebody who fights against fire. It's not a man on fire, okay? So it's not fully transparent. And it is this compound noun is lexicalized, just like vegetable garden. What it means is that it passed into the lexicon. And in this case, particularly, this word will be found in dictionaries, okay? But it's not always the case. Now, remember, we're wondering how to recognize compounds. Now, can we rely on spelling in order to identify compounds? As you can see here, paper plate is an open compound. It's made up of two separate words. Dress designer, well, I said paper plate is an open compound, but we'll look at it in more detail later on. Dress designer is what we call a hyphenated compound. It has a hyphen, un trait d'union. And then toothbrush is what we call a closed compound because it's made up of two words which are stuck together. So is this a clue that can help us to know when we have a compound or not? Well, to some extent, yes. When two words are separate, they're less likely to be a compound, whereas when they're stuck together and one word, closed compound, they're more likely to be a compound. Okay, this is due to the principle that you're familiar with now, which is known as iconicity. It's the idea that language reflects the world it describes. And indeed, it's the case here. The spelling, the morphology, is an indication as to how should the words be interpreted in terms of their status. Are they compounds or not? It works quite well for blackbird versus blackbird, right? A blackbird being un oiseau noir and a blackbird being un merle. But remember the case of black hole versus black hole. They're both spelled the same way, and yet they do not work the same way. So this is a clear sign that iconicity is not always perfect. Now, if we look at the example that we have here, paper plate, in a little bit more detail, we'll see that this phenomenon is actually what we can call a continuum. What we mean by continuum is the idea that things are not black or white. There are many different shades of gray between the two, and not all compound nouns work the same. Okay, so a white plate is not a compound, right? It's made up of two lexical units, an adjective and a noun. Now, on the other hand, a paper mill is a compound. It means une minoterie, une papeterie, and it's referent, it's not transparent at all, okay? It doesn't mean un moulin à papier, okay? Or un moulin en papier. Now, a paper plate is a little bit different. It's definitely not as, it's definitely more transparent than a paper mill, right? It just means a plate made up of paper. So we call these compounds pseudo-compounds because they're much more transparent than real compounds. Now, to make this a bit more clear, let's look at examples in pictures, right? So here's a plate, and now here's a paper plate. You will agree with me that these two things are the same, right? Whereas if you think about a mill, you're likely to visualize it like this. Now, whereas this is a paper mill, it's completely different. A new referent, a new meaning is created, okay? Now, if paper mill was transparent, this is what it could be pictured as, okay? But this is not what it means, right? So, on the one hand, paper plate is fully transparent. This is why we call it a pseudo-compound, whereas paper mill is not transparent at all. You have to know what it means in order to interpret it. And this is why we say that it's a real compound. Now, one clue that can help you is the translation into French. In English, a paper plate in French is une assiette en carton, whereas a paper mill is une papeterie or une minoterie. And the fact that there's just one word to translate paper mill into French, I mean, papeterie, minoterie are just made up of one word. This shows you that it's more likely to be a compound than assiette en carton, which is made up of three words and tells you that it's not really a compound. Although this clue does not always work, it can still be useful. Right, now remember we talked about lexicalized compounds like fireman. Here are a few other examples of conventionalized compounds that are fully lexicalized, like bedroom, snowflake, tablecloth, stepfather, grammar book. Now, some other compounds are not lexicalized. They're not meant to last, and they're made up on the spur of the moment. Consider, for instance, the example the DiCaprio movie. Well, it can mean different things depending on when we're saying this sentence, and it will not be included in dictionaries. Now, let's compare the example cat book, which is not fully conventionalized, with the example grammar book, which is fully conventionalized and lexicalized. Everybody knows what a grammar book is, but not everybody would agree on what a cat book is. A cat book can be different things. The most obvious is this, right? A book about cat. Theoretically, it can also be this, a book with a character who is a cat. Now, it can be cute things like this. This is a book for cats to play with. And something a bit less cute, a book made up of cat. Obviously, this is not true, right? It's just for fun. But this shows you that potentially cat book is not easy to interpret, and that depending on the context, it can mean different things. So it's not fully conventionalized as opposed to grammar book, which is conventionalized. So if you're not sure whether a word or expression is a conventionalized compound, do not use it, okay, to be on the safe side. Right, So there's an activity on whether expressions are compounds or not. And that's all for this video.